Welcome to the Simpler Business Podcast, where we talk about ways to do what you love and serve your people in a way that brings you income and freedom. I'm your host, Marissa Roberts. Join me as I chat with my favorite entrepreneurs about how they simplify their biz so that you can simplify yours. Sales conversations can be nerve-wracking, especially when you're in the early stages of your business. You want to convert prospects into customers, but you don't want to come across as pushy or sleazy. Well, if sales make you nervous, you are not alone. Plenty of business owners and entrepreneurs feel apprehensive about selling, and they stress about making a sale without feeling awkward or forceful. So today we're going to look at some ways to approach sales with more confidence and no sleaze. My guest today, Cienna Kopischke, is a 3-time multi-six-figure visibility and sales business coach. She teaches women how to grow and scale their businesses using potent marketing and sales tactics and by removing limiting beliefs that are holding them back. Cienna is here to talk about the simple ways that you can handle sales conversations and convert new clients without being sleazy. And I think it's going to be a really fun and helpful conversation. Cienna, welcome. Thanks for being here.
I'm so excited to be here, Marissa. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, of course. I'm really excited about our chat because I think this sort of topic is something that pretty much every business owner struggles with, especially those of us who start a business doing something that we enjoy, right? I remember my very first business was an organizing business. I loved organizing spaces. My aim was to help mothers of young children. I wanted to go into their homes and set them up so that their day flowed really smoothly and they were less stressed, right? I
Yeah.
loved the job, hated the sales. I hated trying to convince somebody to work with me. I always felt like, am I being too forceful? Am I pushing them into it? And then I'd get in my head and I'd be too scared to even try and I'd procrastinate. And I think our listeners, a lot of us are on the same page. So I am really excited to be here talking with you. And I think even after 12 years in the industry, there's still so much I could learn about sales myself. So yeah, thanks for coming.
Of course. No, I definitely understand all of that.
Totally relatable. So as a coach, what would you say are the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to their approach to sales?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just trying too hard, right? You are so focused on the fact that you may have bills coming up and you have to pay those bills. Or maybe you're really focused on the fact that life is just hitting you a little too much, or you want to get out of debt, or you want all of these things. That I would say you have to switch the focus off of you. Because when we go into our business from a place of, oh, I need to make money because I need to pay my bills, or I need to make money because I want to pay off this credit card, or I need to make money because I want to put my kid in soccer. We are forgetting that there's another person on the other side of that sale, that matters more than you do. That matters more than your bills that need to be paid. And I think when we start focusing on the right thing, which is the other person that we are here to serve through our business, we're actually able to make more sales, contrary to popular belief.
Yeah, you're so right. We're so in our
Yeah.
heads. We don't think about the other person. And I think there's a
Mhm.
danger in that too, isn't there? Because when we start to scale the business, if we're not thinking in terms of I'm selling to an actual person and I'm helping them with a problem or I'm helping them find a solution to something, that's when we kind of go into that dangerous territory of starting to think about sales as numbers only and not actual people, right?
Exactly. And I think, sales, yes, it's technically numbers, but there is a person behind that screen that you're talking to. There's a person behind the phone. There's a person directly in front of you if you're having an in-person sales conversation. And we really should be looking at the other person. And when we decide that we are going to sell from a place of, I'm going to provide value to this person, you're going to be able to make more money. And that's the whole point of not being sleazy. I think we think about sleazy because a lot of us have had very bad experiences buying cars. I know I have. I recently went to the car dealership and I wanted to buy a minivan because my family is growing and expanding. And I remember the sales guy was so pushy on this particular car, and he ran my credit without my permission and like all of these things, and just trying to force me into taking out this car.
Yeah.
And I just remember telling him multiple times, like, you know what? I'm not interested anymore. I'm not interested in this car. I'm just not. And he would consistently come back with, oh, okay, well, let's do this for you. Let's do that for you. And then at one point, he got his manager involved, and the manager is coming out. And now this manager is like, oh, you know what? Why don't we take the car home for the night? I'm like, I'm not interested. You're not listening. You don't care about me. All you care about is making that number that is going to help you to pay your bills.
Mhm.
But you need to care about me as a person the same way I need to care about all of my clients, and my clients need to care about their clients.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel that. I used to work in a call center years and years and years ago, and it wasn't a sales call center, it was a service center, right? So people would call and you would fix their problems. But then we had this sales requirement on top of that. So the person wasn't even remotely thinking about getting something new when they called us. And yet every call we still had to pitch a sale right on the end. And I remember feeling so uncomfortable because I'm like, clearly that's not what they're calling for. They're not calling to be pitched something new. And so I would just like, they'd give us a little script to say, and we'd have to squish that script in at the end of the phone call. It turned a really nice phone call every time, turned a nice phone call when I helped somebody. They were really grateful. And then I had to do that little thing at the end and squeeze those words in and try and pitch a sale. And it made the whole experience crappy for both of us. And you ended up ending every single call really disappointed in yourself, even though you weren't the one that
Yeah.
you were told to do it, but it felt really bad. And it was the same sort of thing. I felt like we lost that connection with the person because I had to start treating them as if they were, a number, not a person anymore. And the sale counted more than helping the actual problem, which is crazy, right?
That is so crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why companies do that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, I understand that businesses are businesses. This was a big corporation that I worked for at the time. So I get it. They need to make sales, but I feel like there's a better way. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to start my own business is because I cared about actually helping a person. And you're right. But then I get in my own head with sales and forget that that's what I'm here for and go, oh, yeah, I need to pay this bill, or I've got a subscription piece of software that I need to pay for, or, this person over here is making great money doing the same thing and I'm not. That must make me a loser, or, and we go down this internal spiral, right? So let's look at how we can flip it then, because I think that we're all stuck there. That was a bit of an aha moment for me, but how do we actually get out of that sort of feeling? Have you got any strategies or techniques that you find that a business owner can use to navigate a sales conversation so that it doesn't feel pushy or sleazy, or even not even just on the phone, but maybe in like DMs? I know DM selling is a big thing right now. Have you got any things we can try to make it feel better?
Yeah, so I really focus on what's called love-based sales. It's a term that I coined, and what it means is you're putting the other person before you. Okay. And so we have to get out of this mindset of us, us, us. I need to pay this. I need to do this. I need to do that. And the best way that I have found to do that is to really just get to know people, because you're not going to be sleazy if you're actually taking the time to have conversations with people. There's no room for that, right? Because it's a natural conversation. If you are sitting here and you are really getting to know someone from a point of their life, their perspectives, and that's great. So I just want to go back. The first thing that I would really do step by step is, number one, if we're talking about sales through social media in particular, you want to make sure that your audience is made up of people who are primarily going to buy from you. And this doesn't mean that you have to cold pitch them, because I do not agree with that strategy. This just means that we need to be following primarily and have followers primarily that fall into your ideal client route. Now, whether they need you or not is really just going to depend on them. And we have to allow them to be empowered enough to decide to work with us on their own. And I think we have to also start thinking about, how do we want to be treated? It's important to treat people the way that you want to be treated. If you are pushy, pushy, pushy to somebody else, would you like that to be done to you? And if the answer is no, then it's no, and you don't do that. And so my first point of this is start engaging with people who you would like to have as your followers. And my second point to that, on the flip side of that, would be to remove people who are following you who are nowhere near close to being your ideal followers. So I'm a sales coach. I am not going to follow any other sales coach. I don't believe in it. I don't allow other sales coaches to follow me. If they follow me, I typically remove them. And there's a reason for that, because at the end of the day, they're not going to engage with my content the way that someone who is actually interested in my services would engage with my content, which means that if Instagram is showing my content to them, I'm just speaking generally in reference to Instagram because you mentioned DM sales, but if Instagram is showing my content to them, it's probably not going to show my content to too many of my ideal clients if that person is engaging with my content. And if they're not engaging with my content now, they're seeing it, now they're just hurting my numbers. And that causes additional problems. It's okay to remove people, it's okay to block people, it's okay to mute people who are just not your ideal followers, right? And that's number one. And then the second part of this is when they do follow you, build that rapport with them, build those relationships with them. I think I have like 1,100 followers on Instagram right now, which may or may not be a lot to whomever is listening to this. But for me, even if I had 3 people in my audience, I would treat it the same. I would want those 3 people to be people who are my ideal clients, like that I would want to potentially work with. And then I would get to know them. I would, if I saw that they posted in their stories that they had children, I would talk about my kids too. I would say, hey, I see that you have kids. I have kids too. I'm also a mom, right? Or if they're a dad, I'm also a parent. If they have a dog, I have a dog. What's your dog's name? Like, what's your dog like? This is what my dog likes, right? Like, we are going to talk about everything other than my business, because my DMs are not a place for us to talk about business. It is and it isn't. It's a place for you to get to know people and to connect with people. And the more you do that, the more they are going to say, hey, how can I work with you? I tell this story all the time, but one of my clients she became my client because number one, I saw that she fit into my ideal client realm. And so I followed her. She then followed me back. And then I noticed in her stories that she has the same air fryer as I do. And so we talked for 2 weeks about this air fryer back and forth. We sent recipes to each other. We like all of these things about this air fryer. It was so much fun. And then 2 weeks later, she sent me a message and said, how can I work with you? I never brought up my business. I never brought up anything about my business or her business. We literally talked about recipes. The key is if we're going to add value to someone else's life, we should be talking about our offers all the time in other places, on your stories, in your feed. Those are the places where you want to talk about the value. Those are the places where you want to have your attract, nurture, convert type of content. It is not for you to go cold pitch the person you believe is your ideal client in the DMs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that takes a lot of pressure off too, actually, because you're right. That's where that pushiness factor kind of comes in, is when you've got to make that shift. When people say, oh, in the DMs, you have to, try and convert people to a sales call or convert people to checking out your sales page. And I feel like as soon as I do that, that's when I lose people. I lose that connection, and you can't get it back once you've lost it. And I find whenever I'm working with somebody, if I think back over the last couple of years in my business, my books are full right now, but that's because of things like people who I've just randomly chatted with. If I've gone out and met them in person at somebody's wedding or, somebody else's coffee get together, or yeah, I'm thinking about it, and there's been no one who went, I'm so glad you called me and talked me into your sales program. And which is silly, because until you said that just then, I'm like, oh no, sales calls and DM selling, that's a must do in a business. But actually it hasn't been successful for me to do it that way every time I've tried. And I think that's why I didn't
Yeah.
like it. Yeah. Amazing.
Exactly. It's not going to feel fun. And if it doesn't feel fun for you, then it's just not a great strategy. I believe that sales should be fun because it's a place where you get to love other people. When you make that sales transaction, you are loving on that person because of the fact that you're giving them something that they want on their own. not something that you forced on them, something that they're like, you know what, I actually need this. And you know that your product, your service, your offer actually help them, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be salesy. So then they just don't sell. Okay, well, what you're doing is not only are you hurting your own bank account, but you're also hurting people who may need that offer. If you are afraid to talk about your offers, then that means that you don't love other people. But if you are unapologetically unashamed to share your offer, to talk about your offer, then you do love other people, because loving people comes from offering them something that's going to actually help them and not holding things from them that will help them, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So share it loud and proud, but share it in
Yes.
your stories, share it in your feed, share it widely rather
Yes.
than targeting one person to share it at a time.
Exactly. And if your content is good enough, if you are really doing the convert, nurture, attract method, which all that means is that your attract is creating content that tells people about the problem that they're having. So you're bringing the problem to the surface. You're addressing the fact that there is even a problem in the first place, right? That's your attract content. Then you have your nurture content. This is content that says, hey, I know you're going through this, but here's exactly how I can help. This is where you're talking about your framework. This is where you're talking about your processes, your blueprint to success, right? This is where you're talking about, how you have helped other people. And then you have your convert. This is where you're directly saying, this is my product. This is my offer. This is how you can get into it. This is what somebody else has gotten out of this product or service or offer. They went from A to X, or A to Z, right? Like, however, whatever happened for them. This is where you're converting those sales, because now people are seeing the value. And you just keep repeating those three pieces of content. And the last one, I will say, there's technically four pieces of content that are important. The last one, in my personal opinion, that is important, is also going to be your objection handling content. Because what
Yeah.
you don't want is people to hop in your DMs and go, hey, so I'm not sure if I can afford this, right? People should already, I teach that you should love people in your sales processes, right? Love-based sales. It just means not being sleazy, being upfront, not to we're not deceiving people. That means that we're being upfront about our prices. Because I see too often where people are like, oh, if you want to hear about my prices, you have to hop on a discovery call with me. Okay. But if I can't afford you, I can't afford you. And I need to know that before I hop onto this call with you. And people are like, well, if it's too high ticket, you don't share your price. Okay, I would have to disagree with that. You should be sharing your price, because then you're going to immediately eliminate people who can't afford you, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we're not deceiving people. We're being honest. We're being upfront. We're handling those objections in our content, and we're speaking to that. And through that, we are showing love to other people. And that is the most important thing in this world that we could have.
I love that so much. I love that so much. And I know new business owners, typically first 5 years of their business, they go back and forth with that pricing thing and being transparent about pricing. And honestly, I'm at a point now where I'm like, hang on a minute. Do you want to waste 30 minutes of somebody's time if they love what you do, but they can't afford it? And do you want to make them uncomfortable to the point where they have to say that out loud?
Mhm.
Like, it's not bad if someone can't afford your service or your product, because they might be in a different life stage, or they might have different priorities. It's nothing personal if they can't afford you. You don't have to drop your prices, but be open about it so that you're not wasting your time or somebody else's. And application forms are a thing for me too, so sales calls are one
Yes.
thing. Application calls where you feel like you have to pass a job interview just to find out whether or not you do want somebody else's product, that always felt a little bit off to me.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I think we just need to be more transparent about what we're offering and just allow that person to make that decision, right? Like, I personally don't want to be tricked into buying into something that I don't even really need or know if I need. I need to know, we as humans desire to know all the information so we can make an informed decision. Other people may argue, but the truth is at the end of the day, my numbers for my clients, not myself, because I never talk about my own numbers, but my numbers for my clients speak for themselves. Like, none of my clients are hiding prices. None of my clients are hiding like how long their offers are or how much of a commitment you have to put in to work with them. None of my clients are hiding what what it is that they do, what is their transformation. They're very vocal about it, and that has made them a lot of money, right? It has made them a lot of sales. And a lot of money isn't always the goal, depending on what you believe. But it's great when your business is doing what it needs to do,
Yeah,
being
when
a thriving business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And look, I do find sales psychology interesting and I love a good sales page, but for me, I don't want to manipulate somebody with my sales page. I want to
Yeah.
build their confidence and I want to help them, picture what's achievable for them and I want to show them the outcome that I can help them with, not trick them into paying their money, if you know what I mean. And I'm not saying everybody out there
Exactly.
does that, but you know how sometimes you can come across a sales campaign or a sales page and you read through it and you just feel like it just feels like you get the ick just from reading it, right? You can
Yeah.
spot those a mile away. And I think when it comes to objections in traditional sales, so many people are focused on if they say this, you say that. If they say this, you say that. That feels really manipulative. And I feel like going,
Yeah.
I say to people, you can overcome every objection in your sales page in a really nice way. You can have your
Mhm.
pricing really transparent. You can have payment plan options for the people who can't pay in full. You can talk about what happens if I don't get this result in 30 days and give a guarantee or whatever you do. You can overcome
Right.
objections in a good feeling way, right? That respects someone.
Exactly. I really like that you said, there's multiple ways to handle your objections, especially in your copy on your website. And I think that's even true for social media. You have to be upfront about certain things. Here's one way that I like to put this. I have one client and um she pitches people onto podcasts, which I love. I love that she does that. She's amazing. She's wonderful, all the things. Okay. And one thing that I like about her is in her content, she has noticed that a lot of people were falling off. Like people would sign on for 6 month contracts with her, but then they would fall off around month one, month two, because they weren't making sales from being on these podcasts, which is not the point. Yeah, it's strange. That's very strange. And so she really broke down in one of her pinned posts the importance of working with her for 6 months and why she has a 6 month contract. And she really talked about, it takes 6 months for you to build your name out on multiple platforms before people start to recognize even who you are, for them to want to hire you and work with you in the future, right? And so if sales is your goal out of this, it's going to take even longer than 6 months. It could take up to 12 months, 30 months, right? Really just depending on who you're targeting and what it is that you're doing, because public relations in and of itself is not sales. That's just, we can have a whole nother conversation on
Yeah, it
that.
could be a whole
Um,
episode.
yeah, that could be a whole episode. And she really broke it down and it was so beautiful. And she was just like, you know what? I'm determined to work with people who understand the value, and here's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Not, someone hopping on a sales call with her and they're like, "Oh, why do I have to sign a 6 month contract?" And she's like, "Well, you have to sign it because that's my rules." It doesn't work that way, right? It's like, this is why I require this, because I want the best for you. I want your success in this. And so when we started to reframe it from, I want money, because she could say, I want you to work with me for 6 months so I can guarantee my income for 6 months. Or she could say, because this is going to help you in the long run, right? Which one are we going to hire her for? Right? Not because she wants to make money. And so I think we have to just treat people like we want to be treated. Don't be deceptive. Be honest. Be truthful. Be open about what it is that you're doing. Really handle objections in a way that is sweet and innocent, right? Like that is nice, that puts the person before you. And I would also say, if you're hopping on sales calls and you're getting a lot of objections, you're not doing a good job with being honest on wherever it is that someone's reading your information from. If they're coming from your website, which by the way, every business owner should know, and if you don't know your data, please check it. If they're coming from your website, then that means that your website is failing. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. If they're coming from your social media content is failing. You really should be, and not to be rude, but like you really should understand how to handle objections through copy, either wherever that is, whether that is on your website or on your content. So this way you're not hopping into calls with people who are confused on how the process works. And then of course, then that leads to pushy sales, which we don't want.
Yeah, and that's true because it's not about needing to convince them to work with you. If your website or your social media gets people to a point where they want to talk to you, that sales call moment or that DM conversation or that email back and forth really can just be about, okay, great. So here are the logistics. Here's how to get started. Here's what to expect in our first few months together. Here's what it's going to feel like, what I need from you and what you're going to get from me. It's very different. You should have already covered the whole, here's the gap, I can bridge it for you, right? And then it's
Right.
smoother that way. Yeah, that's a good point.
Exactly.
What what about fear of rejection? Because I know some of my listeners write in and they're like, yeah, I get it. I get that there's a good way to sell, but I just feel too nervous to start. They're like, I don't want to be stumbly. I mean, my advice is usually you're going to be stumbly anyway, so just get that
Yeah.
out of the way. But do you have any tips on people who are like procrastinating on trying to make sales because they're worried that they're going to get rejected or they're going to get turned down and they're going to feel silly?
Yeah. My only advice is to get out of your own head. I
Yeah.
know that doesn't sound like the best advice, but you're never going to be successful if you hold yourself back, right? We cannot hold ourselves back as people. We have to be what pushes us forward. And I would challenge you to think about what your why is. For me, my why is my child. I have a 2-year-old son who I love dearly. I love being able to stay at home with him. I homeschool him. I know he's 2, but we have our homeschool hour. We work on our colors, our numbers, our shape, you know,
Yeah.
pre-kindergarten things. And he's a child, he's a baby. So we're working on these things, and he is my why. Because if it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for the fact that I want my business to work out and to continue to work out because of my child, then I would end up physically at work every single day for somebody else, making a salary. And then what that does is that causes me to lose out on moments with my son. Because I've been able to be home with him, I've watched him take his first steps. I've watched him say his first word. I've watched him identify his first color. I've watched him run for the first time, right? Like these are moments I never ever want to miss as a parent, and I never have to. And I say that with pride because of the hard work that I put in to ensuring that I never have to. And that's my why. And so my challenge to somebody listening is in the nicest way is find out what your why is. What is it that you're doing this for? What is it that's lighting you up? And do it for that. If you're doing this because right now you don't have a house of your own and maybe you live at your parents' house and you're trying to make things work and the economy just seems uncertain and you're not sure what to do, that should be your why. It should be, I want to buy a house. I want to be a homeowner, right? That should be your why. Go out there and sell. Get out of your own way. Do not allow the fear of rejection to crumple you. I don't believe in fear. It's just one thing that I like. I don't know how to tackle it very well. If I Not that I don't believe in it as if it's not real. Like obviously everybody is fearful of something. Even I have had my fear of rejection in the past. But what really has helped me is to recognize who I am. Like I am worthy. I am capable. I am confident. I am able of making sales. Yes, people are going to say no to me. I've had more no's in the world than I have had yeses. But every single no gets me one step closer to my yes. Every single no teaches me something that I need to know about myself, about my process, right? So failure is a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing. I think also too, on the flip side of this is we hop on social media and we see all these people that are like, I made $1 million in 2 days. And like, I just started my business 30 days ago and I
Yeah.
already made 8 figures. Like, oh my goodness, half of that's just not true. I just have to say. But on the flip side of that, even if it were true, um, I think we get so bombarded with these types of messages that we start to think, oh, what if I don't make it? Or if you're not making it and you're 3 months in, or even 5 years in, and you're still not making the money that you want, you feel like you failed. you're not failing. You're learning. You're growing. You're experiencing life for the first time. Like it's going to be uneasy. You got to keep riding your bicycle before you can ride the bike. Like you got to walk before you can run. Like everything is going to work out if you believe it. But if you let fear hold you back rather than let fear motivate you, you're always going to be stuck.
Yeah, that's so true. Literally, the only way that it could not work out is if you stop trying, right? That's yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think back to things like, other parts of life. When I was a teenager learning to drive a car, the very first time I got in the car, I was freaking out. I was like, how do I even move
Yeah.
this forward? What if I hit somebody? And then what if it rains? And then cut to 10 years
Yeah.
later, I'm driving in any weather. I'm changing the radio station. I'm going through the McDonald's drive-thru. I can pick the pickle off my burger. I'm still good, like
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's just practice, right? And if you have a fail, if you bump into something, you just give it another go. I
Exactly.
really love that. That takes so much pressure off. And I think that's people listening today are going to find that really helpful.
Yeah, that's good.
Lovely. All right. Well, Sienna, if anybody's wanting more from you and they want some more sales tips, where should they go?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Cienna Kopischke. But also, I have an awesome ebook that kind of walks you through my system of how to make more sales in your business. And through that ebook, you're able to kind of figure out what works best for you because sales is not really a one-stop shop. It's not like you take this strategy and implement it and it works, right? Every person really needs a different strategy because every business is different. Every business is unique. Every person is unique. And I like to tell people also too, like your lifestyle is unique, right? Like what are you doing during your daily time? And not every social media type of account is going to work well for you and your business. And so my ebook really walks you through what's the best steps for you to take for you to grow and make more sales.
I love that. So, how to grow your business in a strategic way that fits with your lifestyle and your goals. And
Exactly.
oh, that's so good. All right. So, I'm going to leave a link in the show notes to that. And if people want to chat with you online, are you on Instagram the most, or Facebook, or LinkedIn, or is the website the best place for people to get in touch with you if they have questions or anything like that?
Yeah, I would say Instagram and LinkedIn are my two favorite places to hang out. I'm there literally all the time. So if you want to message me, it's just my name on both, Cienna Kopischke. I would be more than happy. I love answering questions. Please don't ever feel like, can I ask her this question or can I not ask her this question? You do not need to pay me to pick my brain. Just hop in my DMs, send me a message, say, Cienna, I'm thinking about X, Y, and Z. How does this work? I will sit down and I will probably send you an entire voice note on something. So send me your messages. I love chatting with people. It's just who I am.
Lovely. All right. Well, I'll leave links in the show notes for your LinkedIn, your Instagram as well. I definitely recommend getting that ebook, everybody, because that sort of balance that you can get by growing your business in a way that suits you, it's kind of like the sales thing. It's about finding a way for you to be comfortable with it. That's what's going to work in the long run, right? Not struggling to fit into somebody else's mold and then always feeling like you're slogging it out 24/7. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think this has been such a good conversation. I'm so glad you came on the show to talk sales because you've literally like lifted a weight off my shoulders in what, the space of half an hour. I'm loving it. And I'm someone who I'm generally very good at sales, but that's because I'm a bit lazy and I set up all the systems to do it for me. But I miss that touch
Love it.
point. Yeah. And it's fun. It's got a place, but I really miss that personal touch point that you can get sometimes with sales. And I feel like you've just
Yes.
ignited this little spark in me to be like, no, I can jump in and do it again myself too. So thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. This has been fun.
Yeah, I think so too. And everybody listening out there, I hope you've enjoyed listening to our conversation too, as much as I've enjoyed having it. It's a great topic. Make sure you look into Cienna's resources because I think they're going to be really, really helpful. And I will see you all in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Simpler Business Podcast. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to make it nice and easy for you, just the way we like it. If you're ready to simplify and scale your business, you can get started with my free audio class at marissaroberts.com. See you next time.